If you want to know what entrepreneuring is really all about, watch this next video. I interviewed this woman who runs a nonprofit organization that gives loans from individuals like you and I to people in Africa and Asia to start businesses. And she started like 7,000 people to start businesses, raised over $2 million. So you go on the site and give $100, you see the person in that country wants the money, what they want to do, and you communicate with them, and they need $100 to start like a cell phone company. See, in these underdeveloped countries, all you need is 2 sticks and an idea, and that's what entrepreneuring is about. Here, we've come to the idea, boy, I need $1 million to start a business. Well, some businesses you do, but a whole lot, and most, I think, you don't. Even in this country, you see the people, the whole story about starting a business in the garage with nothing. That's how things start. And now with the services, a service economy, and the internet, you don't need $1 million. You could start businesses even in this country for $100. But now what she's doing is so exciting because she's taking people out of poverty. She's taking people, getting them education, and getting money for you to do something with your money that really helps somebody grow their life. Where else could you do $100 like that? Man, fancy meals cost $100 in this country. Here, $100 for a meal could start a business or start a restaurant in another country. And that's what's exciting. And then to learn about what it really takes to become an entrepreneur. And plus, what she's doing, the rate that the person who gets the money has to pay for the money is a fraction of what the big banks or the NGOs, nonprofit organizations that help people like this are charging over almost 30-40% interest, and she charges just a fraction of that. Because she's just getting interest for you to get 5% or 10% or whatever on your money, and that's it. See, and so she's an entrepreneur in starting something like this, and because it's the internet makes this happen. That's what happened. This is why the internet is changing our world, not only our world, everybody else's world, in the world, because of this internet. And she worked for traditional NGOs, nonprofit organizations, helping people in underdeveloped countries, improve their existence. And I said, with the internet, I can help people start businesses in these countries. And she even works with mostly all volunteers. There's like 1 or 2 people in her whole organization that raised $2 million already. 7,000 people. That's the number of projects she has on her site already. Because all this peer-to-peer, you go on the website, you say, hey, that's interesting. This person makes wonderful clothes and she wants to start a store or a clothing business or something. For $100, she's in business, and you can make that happen. What power! What power the internet gives us. We sit here and so spoiled in our society, think we need $1 million to have power. No! You can affect a life just with $100, $50, $10 even, $1. But more important, watching these people start a business, you will understand even here, you don't need a whole lot of money to start a business. What you need is desire. So watch this. Well, Julia Cornea, right? And you're the founder and chief bottle washer and inventor of a website called Zadisha Zadisha.org, because you're a nonprofit, right? That really helps people in underdeveloped countries really become entrepreneurs, for very little money. Like you could send $100 to, someone in Benin, and they could have a thriving business. And all it takes is that, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us, how can we help you do this? It sounds like, and we get the money back. So it's a lending program, and instead of going through some NGO that's going to charge big overhead and everything, you've cut out all the middlemen and make it better than anybody else is doing anything like this out there, right?
Yes, Zadisha was the first in the world to apply a direct person-to-person lending model internationally.
Wow.
connecting directly to a person in Africa or Asia, and you can finance their business.
Wow. So now, I mean, there's similar kind of groups trying to do the same thing, but the overhead, because they have large organizations or banks involved and things like this, that the poor people trying to get $100 may cost them $35 to get the $100, right?
Yes, worldwide, the average interest rate paid for these small microloans is about 40%.
The average interest rate is 40% on a microloan.
Yes.
Wow, that's like the mafia.
Even at Kiva, when you're financing the loans at zero interest, the end borrowers are paying an average of 35%.
So on Kiva, an end borrower, and that's another NGO kind of thing that is helping people in underdeveloped countries be entrepreneurs, and they're paying 35% on Kiva. Wow, and there's no interest in a way. That's just like middleman fees, huh?
Yes, those are. That's what it costs to administer traditional loans with loan officers on the ground.
Wow.
Traditional microfinance is really expensive.
I see. So now, so now you've done it like peer to peer. So I go on your website and I see, the woman or the guy or whoever wants a little cell phone company or was selling cell phones that I could, looking for $300. I almost talk to him directly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we could communicate directly right on your website to the person getting the money. But then the money seems to go through a bank also. Is that correct?
No, we bypass all local banks, and so you're connecting directly to the borrower. You dialogue and talk to them directly. The money is sent directly to them, and no bank intermediary is involved in the process.
No bank. So how many? If there's no banks involved, so you just electronically he gets the money on his cell phone or his bank account or something like that, or what?
Yeah. For most of the loans, we actually use mobile phone-based payment services, which means we can electronically send money to the cell phone of a nomad in Africa. In fact, a nomad in Kenya who lived over a day's journey from any bank received our first Zadisha loan. It was all...
Wow. So a nomad in Africa could get his money on his cell phone, and I can't even do that here in Kensington, Maryland.
Yes.
That's wonderful. So electronically you do that through systems like they have in these underdeveloped countries because people have cell phones and nothing else, right? So
yes.
They're able to get this money. But more importantly, you got 7,000 projects that you've already financed, worth over $2 million. Man, we going to get rid of the World Bank now because of you, or what?
Yes, it's really exciting because our loans cost so much less to the borrower, but the lenders can still earn interest, and that's because we get rid of the intermediaries.
What? Now, how much turns bad? Do you have a feel for that yet, or what?
We estimate a repayment rate of about 90 to 95% for loans currently being made.
Wow, 95%. But all the loans are not very big, so it's not a big individual loss. I mean, that sounds like the SBA loans is worse than that.
In fact, you can lend as little as $1 to each loan, so it's very easy to diversify.
Wow, $1. And then you also have groups, what is great on your site. You have groups of people that get together. I mean, some of these groups, like alumni associations, or you have an atheist group, and all kinds of affiliated people, or people like who traveled to underdeveloped countries before and thought it was neat when they saw poverty to try to help them as a group. And they're contributing hundreds of thousands of dollars by just organizing themselves together.
Yes, and often the amount per person is very small.
Right, that's what I mean. So, but you group it together, man, and you're really making an effect on it. I mean, you sending $100,000 to a village in Africa, man. That must be a real game changer in town.
And $1 or $100 loan in Africa goes so much farther than the same amount in the United States.
Wow.
For the cost of a nice dinner in New York, you could start an entire restaurant in Kenya.
That's interesting. The cost of dinner in New York, I could start a restaurant in Kenya.
So
Oh, that's amazing. I think about my zip code here. People who are getting Social Securities, millionaire lawyers are getting Social Security, a month or like $2,500. Man, a kid could go to college for that, and it's 3 meals for them downtown at some fancy restaurant. So,
well, speaking of college, many of our borrowers are actually university students, and they're either
ah,
supporting themselves with small business to put themselves through school, or
I
they're
see.
actually paying their tuition with a $200 loan.
Loan. So it's better than the gangsters here in this country are lending money. These banks, for student loans are terrible because what they've done to these people. So now you're able to put it this, and it's really peer to peer. An individual person lending money to an individual person, in a foreign country. It's not much money to any individual here, but it's so significant to their life there, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But what's interesting about your organization, more so than that you figured out a way to cut the cost by 30% or more, is that you run a lot on volunteers, so you have wonderful people that are helping you in this country, other countries, or whatever, that see the need and the importance of what you're doing and are willing and able to volunteer their time just to help in any way, it seems.
Yes. Our organization is run by volunteers. I was a volunteer for years, and today I and one web developer are the only permanent staff members.
And everybody else is volunteer. Well,
It's like Wikipedia in that respect. We have many people collaborating to build this organization.
But it also, I think, a volunteer for a group like this, to me, seems like you're developing a skill. I mean, God, where else can you get a skill in financial, interpersonal relationships, overseas development? I mean, learning about other countries. Man, what are you going to do? Work part-time as a barista somewhere where you could get experience like this? Man, is invaluable as a volunteer for you guys.
Yes, it's an invaluable experience for the volunteer, and it's a way to make a huge impact in the world as well.
I mean, and to see what's going on in the world, and especially a place like Africa, man, they're supposed to double in size in the next 30 or 40 years or something like that, and they're going to be the next big player in this universe. And more of us have to learn about it. And not only are you helping us learn about it, but you're helping us help them grow efficiently, and it takes very little money to change a life there, and it's just wonderful what you're doing, and I'm so glad that we have someone like you doing this and educating the rest of us about how important this work is. And so if people want to help in any way, if you want to give $1, that's going to go a long way to help somebody start a business in the countries you're in, or just some of your time. You say like 2 hours a week is enough, right?
Yes.
To help. Well, that's wonderful. So you go to Zadisha, that's ZIDISHA.org. Don't go to .com, go to .org, right? Because you're not one of these fat cat banks lending money, because I see, all these big commercial banks are trying to get into this business. You know what's going to happen then. Yeah.
Yes.
It's going to be a lot more expensive than you guys are doing. Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Julia. Fun to have you there, and thanks for doing this work. And I hope people realize how important what you are doing is for everybody, not just yourselves when you give. That's why I think it's so selfish to give, because it feels so good. Thank you again, Julia.
Thank you.